students.
Oh. By the way, I mentioned in Indonesia in this paper that I put no link. You can recognize Indonesia and then that you have good network. So in this paper.
Thank you very much.
We will translate it actually in English, and I can send link also.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, 1 minute left.
Yes.
Selamat siang, Bu Inge.
Selamat siang, Pak Nur.
Apa kabar?
Baik.
Mr. Valentine, how are you?
Hello. Hello, Nurul.
Lama tak jumpa ini sama Bu Inge ini dah.
Iya.
Iya.
Halo, siapa yang pandai? Dosen-dosen? I check if some teachers from my.
Oh, teacher, ada Bu Mei.
Halo.
Hello,
Please say hello
Professor
to Valentina.
Halo Bu Inge.
Hello. Hello.
Halo Miss Valentina.
Hello. Nice to see you all.
Bume, yes. She attended Bebra's workshop in Hungary.
Yeah.
Oh, so we should dream now about workshop in Macedonia. With Mile Ivanov in May, and Mil is coming to Lithuania in December, beginning of December. So we will have workshop for our doctoral students, and so some Bebra's friends, Gerald, Milek, Jessamina coming. You know all Inggriani.
Yeah, nice.
Professor Valentina, I'm sorry if we will open this event in Indonesian language.
Yes, no problem.
Mbak Angel, silahkan.
Baik, Bu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Yang terhormat Bapak Profesor Dr. Eng Suroso STM Eng, selaku Dekan Fakultas Teknik, dalam hal ini diwakili oleh Wakil Dekan Bidang Akademik, Bapak Acep Tariana SSI MT. Yang terhormat Bapak Teguh Cahyono, STMkom, selaku Ketua Jurusan Informatika. Yang terhormat Ibu Swahesti Puspita Rahayu Eskom MT, selaku Moderator. Yang terhormat Ibu Dr. Inggriani Liem dan Ibu Profesor Valentina Dagiene, selaku pembicara. Yang terhormat Bapak Ibu dosen jurusan Informatika Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, serta Bapak Ibu peserta kuliah umum Tak Informatik. Puji syukur kita panjatkan kehadiratnya, karena atas berkat rahmatnya kita dapat berkumpul pada siang hari ini dalam acara kuliah umum Tak Informatik dengan tema Isu Terkini dalam Riset Bidang Informatika dan Computational Thinking. Perkenalkan, saya Victoria Angela Sugianto, selaku MC pada acara siang hari ini. Mohon izin untuk membicarakan susunan acara kegiatan. Yang pertama ada pembukaan, kedua ada...
Ya, halo? Kenapa? Yang kalau visitas.
Ya, Mbak.
Baik, saya lanjutkan. Yang kedua ada sambutan dari Ketua Jurusan Informatika, ketiga ada sambutan dari sambutan dan pembukaan oleh Dekan Fakultas Teknik. Yang selanjutnya terdapat
dia minta bukti gitu. Jadi ini buktinya apa? Nah, buktinya dokumen juga.
Maaf, saya lanjutkan. Selanjutnya memulai sesi materi. Lalu terdapat sesi materi pertama, sesi materi kedua, lalu terdapat sesi diskusi, dan yang terakhir ada penutupan. Memasuki agenda kegiatan selanjutnya, yaitu menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya. Kepada panitia yang bertugas, dipersilahkan. Selanjutnya sambutan. Sambutan akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Teguh Cahyono ST MKom selaku Ketua Jurusan Informatika Universitas Jenderal Sudirman. Kepada Bapak Teguh Cahyono dipersilahkan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tes suara saya kedengaran nggih?
Dengaran, Pak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, saudara-saudara sekalian. Syukur alhamdulillah pada pagi siang hari ini kita bisa bertemu di media online. Yang saya hormati Prof Inggriani Liem, yang saya hormati Prof Valentina. Mungkin Prof Inge lupa dengan saya, tapi saya tidak akan lupa dengan Prof Inge. Tahun 2007 saya mendapatkan ilmu yang sangat bermanfaat terkait dengan dokumentasi aplikasi, Bu, di Project I'm Here bersama dengan Pak Acep dulu. Yang saya hormati pula Bapak Wakil Dekan Bidang Akademik Fakultas Teknik Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, saudara sekalian, saudara mahasiswa yang hadir, yang saya banggakan, marilah kita bersama-sama mengikuti acara pada siang hari ini ya. Yang temanya sangat menarik ya untuk bidang informatika, apa yang akan kita kembangkan ke depan dan tren apa yang akan muncul di depan nanti akan banyak dibicarakan di sini. Oleh karena itu besar harapan dari saya supaya Anda semua bisa mengikuti dan mencermati apa yang nanti disampaikan oleh para narasumber, ada Prof Inge, ada Prof Valentin, sehingga bisa menambah wawasan ya, dan pengetahuan bagi kita semua, baik itu dosen maupun juga bagi mahasiswa. Dengan adanya acara ini, semoga apa yang menjadi tujuan dari acara ini bisa tercapai. Dan terima kasih sekali kepada panitia, ini khususnya Bu Swahesti, luar biasa, yang sudah berdarah-darah ya, boleh berdarah-darah ataupun juga sangat bersemangat dalam menyiapkan acara pada siang hari ini. Mungkin itu saja dari saya. Selamat mengikuti acara. Nanti saya mohon kepada Bapak Wakil Dekan Bidang Akademik untuk bisa dan berkenan membuka acara pada siang hari ini. Terima kasih. Itu saja dari saya. Saya akhiri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih atas sambutan yang telah diberikan oleh Bapak Teguh Cahyono. Selanjutnya, sambutan akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Acep Triana, SSI MT, selaku Wakil Dekan Bidang Akademik, sekaligus untuk membuka acara pada siang hari ini.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang kepada Bapak Ibu semua. Yang terhormat Profesor Valentina, kemudian ini Profesor Inggriani Liem. Selamat ketemu kembali, Prof. Sudah kangen saya dengan Bu Inge. 5 tahun yang lalu ketemu ya Bu, sekarang semoga nanti ketemu lagi tahun depan, semoga cepat kembali nih COVID-nya. Nice to meet you for Profesor Valentina. Yang terhormat Bapak Ibu dosen Prodi Informatika, para mahasiswa dan para hadirin semuanya. Selamat siang dan selamat pagi untuk Profesor Valentina. Pada siang ini kami sangat berterima kasih atas kehadiran Profesor Valentina dalam acara kuliah umum dan juga Ibu Dr. Inggriani Liem. Kampus kita ini kalau kita bicara secara online sudah terasa kita ini mendunia, sudah mengglobal begitu. Tetapi kalau secara offline nanti Bu Inge tahu sendiri bahwa kita itu ada di pelosok. Zaman dulu nggak ada pesawat ke sini ya. Sekarang sudah ada pesawat, Bu. Jadi Ibu kalau mau ke Purwokerto nanti bisa bolak-balik sehari 2 kali gitu. Saya kira di era revolusi industri 4.0 ini menuntut adanya perubahan di segala bidang pendidikan, khususnya di dalam bidang informatika. Banyak pekerjaan yang dapat diselesaikan dengan mesin, robot secara otomatisasi. Tetapi juga bermunculan pekerjaan baru yang jauh lebih menantang. Oleh karena itu, sangatlah tepat acara Stadium General ini dilaksanakan agar mampu mengungkap berbagai hal, salah satunya adalah riset keinformatikaan dan computational thinking dalam rangka mengantisipasi perubahan yang cepat di masa kini dan masa datang. Secara spesifik barangkali, acara ini bertujuan untuk mengupdate pengetahuan sivitas akademika, dosen dan mahasiswa, terutama di program studi informatika, akan berbagai isu bidang informatika dan computational thinking. Dan lebih jauh, kami mengharapkan bahwa dengan adanya studium general ini tidak berhenti sampai di sini. Kalau bisa ada forum akademik dengan narasumber yang bersifat world class seperti hari ini. Ada Profesor Valentina dan Profesor Inggriani Liem. Bahkan lebih jauh lagi, kami mengharapkan bahwa kegiatan ini bisa melahirkan sebuah MOU atau perjanjian, ada rintisan kerjasama internasional dengan universitas-universitas yang memungkinkan, baik untuk mahasiswa maupun untuk dosen yang akan studi lanjut. Jadi tujuan ini sangat cocok kalau seandainya diterapkan, bahkan ini sangat relevan dengan visi misi dari Fakultas Teknik. Tahun 2034 kita menuju world class fakultas, university dengan berpikir global ya, secara global. Jadi kita ada di kampung, ada di desa, tetapi berpikir secara global. Namun pertemuan kita hari ini barangkali hanya bisa ketemu di dalam online ini. Mudah-mudahan tidak mengurangi rasa hormat kepada Profesor Valentina dan kepada Profesor Inggriani Liem. Bisa kita bayangkan kalau seandainya kita bertemu tatap muka di Purwokerto, bisa saya ajak nanti makan ke Soto Sukaraja, dan mungkin jalan-jalan ke Baturaden, ya Bu, makan mendoan di sana. Banyak tempat wisata baru di sini, Bu. Dengan adanya COVID ini bahkan tempat wisata banyak bermunculan. Jadi kalau pada saat tidak COVID itu tempat wisatanya besar sekali. Nah, ketika COVID ini jadi mengecil tempat wisata ini. Nah, ini mungkin polimorfisme ya, Bu. Kelihatannya tempat wisata baru nih, kecil-kecil gitu ya, dapat diakses dengan baik, tidak bersiko begitu. Orang berhenti di pinggir jalan langsung datang ke tempat. Nah, ini polimorfisme menurut saya. Barangkali itu dari saya kepada Profesor Valentina dan Bu Inge. Kami sangat senang memberikan materi ini. Semoga acara ini berjalan dengan baik dan silahkan untuk melakukan studium general. Dan mohon maaf saya tidak bisa menemani karena ini pada saat yang bersamaan sebetulnya kami sedang ada acara review anggaran di akhir tahun. Ini biasa akhir tahun itu revisi anggaran karena kalau tidak direvisi nanti tidak terserap. Barangkali itu sambutan saya mewakili Pak Dekan. Terima kasih. Semoga acara ini berjalan lancar dengan baik. Saya buka acara ini dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Semoga acara berjalan dengan lancar. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih atas sambutan yang telah diberikan oleh Bapak Acep Triana, sekaligus telah membuka acara pada siang hari ini. Memasuki acara inti akan dimoderatori oleh Ibu Swahesti Puspita Rahayu, Eskom MT. Kepada Ibu Swahesti dipersilahkan.
Thank you, Miss Victoria Angela, for the introduction. Welcome, students, ladies and gentlemen, in our event Talk in Informatics. Especially thank you for Professor Valentina and Dr. Inggriani Liem. And I will introduce our speakers. First, Dr. Inggriani Liem. If I should introduce all of her CV, we wouldn't have enough time for it, so I will read briefly introducing Bu Inge. Bu Inge is in Indonesia. She's a living legend in algorithm and programming. So, and she also joined a national research board, and in these past few years, she is focusing in introducing computational thinking to youth in Indonesia. Bu Inge will present her presentation in 30 minutes from, actually we are ahead from the schedule. So Bu Inge, you will have 30 minutes, and after that, we will continue with Professor Valentina. And after that, we will have the discussion. I will introduce Professor Valentina before she presents. Now I welcome Dr. Inggriani Liem or Bu Inge. Please, Bu Inge.
Hello, why didn't you plan Valentina first?
Okay, so
Valentina is more, she is well known worldwide, and I'm only local and national. So I think it's better if Valentina speak first.
okay, okay,
Valentina,
I'm sorry.
I hope you don't mind.
Of course, I don't mind anything what you would like, I can do.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we will have Professor Valentina first, and I will introduce her. She is the head of Education System Group at Institute of Data Science and Digital Technology at Vilnius University, and she is the founder of the Bebras International Computational Thinking Challenge, and she has a numerous number of research, publication, and experience in computer science education research, algorithmic thinking, computational thinking, technology enhanced learning, STEM education, Olympiads in informatics, contest, and gamification. Please welcome Professor Valentina Dagiene.
Just a moment, I just am sharing. I think now it is. Yeah. Do you see?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So now it is good, yeah?
Good, very clear.
Good.
Okay, so I have too many slides probably tonight. I reduced, but I still have more than 70 slides, but I will try to do my best. And if you can read them later if you wanted to, that I put probably too many items, but really I would like to share my thoughts, what I would like to say to you. And my presentation, I combined here about literature papers on computational thinking and informatics curricula, with also how to write. At the end, I will present a little how to write scientific paper. And really, I would like to encourage you to also to write and submit papers, maybe some of you. So as already you presented me, but here is some very short, and there's a link where you can find my papers. I think the most important. And here I'm standing in my room at office, and here's Bebra's corner, and several items are from Indonesia, what I'm very proud. I would like first to a little to introduce terminology. I'm not going to read everything, but just I put so many in slides because you can get this summary when you would like. And here in parentheses you see from which papers I have taken this definitions or quotations, and you can easy to in Google Scholar, or there is also list in one document I will show you that you can get the full references, but here I put them very short. And what is very important is computational thinking. I will talk later, but there are many definitions of computational thinking. Of course, the first one is like Professor Jonathan Wing announced actually in 2006, was very short, the slowly 3A abstractions, automation and algorithms, but later in 2008 he made this more precisely. But there are, before Papert already mentioned computational thinking, and what I like very much is from Mary Webb, the last one item from King's College London, that she provided in a paper with many courses. She provided very good definitions of several terms that we need. There is more terminology, like, for example, what is computer science? Also, we should think, and computer science, computing, and informatics. And in these papers, I mentioned Mary Webb with courses that she described this. I think one of the best like definitions provided in this paper. If you are interested, you can take a look. And so you see that informatics in some literature it's slightly different from computer science. But for example, like in Europe, in my country and other European countries, we mainly use informatics or computer science or computing as the same in schools. Actually, this is equal. It depends on language. Of course, we translate, and in Lithuania we call informatika. Like in France also they call informatiku, and in Poland, for example, also use the same informatika for computer science. So now when we would like to see about computational thinking, then we usually start with systematic literature review. Now in computational thinking, there are many papers written in very good journals. I can make only a very short overview here. And I'm working now for a European Commission called GRC, Joint Research Center, and we made quite intensive review of computational thinking papers, and we will publish in January. So just now I couldn't show you this report because it's still undergoing process. And we use this Prisma, one of approach for systematic literature review. You can look at just in Wikipedia. There is some process that how to do systematic review. But in many cases, people are doing in more simpler way. Like for example, just decided usually to select some prestige or top ranking databases, and then with some keyword searching for papers. So this, what we have done with this in this report that I told from JRC, that we use database. We focus mainly on Scopus, because Scopus is more popular in European countries, and then we choose some journals what is high ranked in this area. Of course, I'm talking about computer science education area, and also some conferences. Of course, we should understand language. That for conferences, international conferences, this is good. It's mainly all are in English, but with some journals. For example, there are some journals in local languages, like in German or French. But we focus more on English, that all of us can understand. And for conferences, you know, this Asian conference LaTeX, learning and teaching computing and engineering. Actually, this is one of conference that we know in. There are also several now combining with STEM educations that also published some papers in computational thinking. But now I told you that I'm working for this report for JRC, and we looked for the last 5 years, from 2016 until now 2021. But there is the first report was done before overview before 2016, and the report is published, and it's very popular. You can download and read, and I think that you see this book brochure. It's around 100 pages, but it's a really condensed and interesting piece of work, and you can find here many literature who is cited before 2016, and this is one of, I think, one of best resources for computational thinking. And so there is a link, but if you Google, just put the computational thinking study, and you can get. And it is really interesting to read. And in January, you can get this, that I'm involved in this study. So now we are working on this. So for this 5 years from 2016, so what we found, that I told the best journals and conferences. One of the top journal in our area is Computers and Education. It's very hard to publish papers, and that we found 136 papers in the journal on computational thinking, or in connection with computational thinking during the last 5 years. Again, another also is more on psychological journal, Computers in Human Behavior, also well-ranked journal. So we found 87 papers in, and of course we read these all papers, and is and we have chosen the most important. Here's my journal, Informatics in Education, that I'm editor of the journal. Also, we published many papers in this journal. Okay, that is from conferences. I think that you know this conference, ISEP, Informatics in School Education, Evolution and Perspectives, that is going every year in different countries. This year, just 2 weeks ago, was in the Netherlands. That was online conference only. Usually it is small community. We have usually around 100 participants, not so big. Would be very good to, Inggriani, just I'm addressing to you. Maybe we can, Indonesian people can join like online. For example, next year will be in Austria. Our friend Gerald Fucek is organizing in Vienna. And if you wish, we can really organize some like online sessions, especially for Indonesian teachers. So there is other conferences, as already mentioned. I do not want to go deeper, but in these conferences, and we found that we read around 2,000 papers. Again, I told the last 5 years on computational thinking. That it means that it's very popular, this now this computational thinking. What we found from papers, I would like to share with you. For example, about definitions. Definition is still problematic, and we have different type of definitions, and here we categorize in three strands. First one is generic definitions. Second one that I like the most is operational or model definitions that describe CT like based on fundamentals elements. And now more and more papers are focused on educational or curricular definitions, that it's more connected to school curricula. Here I put some table that was extracted from papers. As you see in parentheses, there are all papers are cited that these definitions, and for example, operational model definition is very well defined in several papers from last year, just in 2020, in different authors. And what's in this operational model, it's very important that they extract several aspects of CT, for example, like abstraction, algorithm design, evaluation, generalization, iteration, and so on. Some 8, some papers 10, and some papers 12 you can find, and some 6, but it depends. Educational and curricular definition is the most interesting to look at Australian curriculum. And in Australian curriculum, really, it is really interesting, and you can find some elements of computational thinking. So despite an intensive research history of around 15 years in this field, the researchers still have not reached a consensus on definition of computational thinking. In my opinion, I do not think that we need very precisely definition. Like we do not have one definition of algorithms, for example, or some other concepts. But it is the most important that we understand, we get some common sense what it is. But at the moment with computational thinking, there are many critiques, and still it's like a big variety of understanding of computational thinking that we need to keep in mind. And also here on the end, at the end, I told, especially in Europe, that we have many languages, you know, in European countries, and computational thinking is very problematic to translate. For example, in Lithuania, of course, it's no problem to translate thinking, because we all have this word. But computational, for example, in Lithuania, we translated informatinis. It means like informatics thinking, because computational, if we translate, then it's nobody will understand it. It will be like more mathematics that you need to calculate something. So in about concepts, what I like is this comes from operational definitions, that concepts are very important. And if we connect to Weber's tasks, also we're looking for concepts. And I like this three-dimensional theoretical framework that is taken first time published by Brennan and Resnick, that it's CT concepts, practices, and perspectives. So this is like three-dimensional model. And with concepts, there is also, you can take a look very short to the concepts, that there are plenty of concepts, many of them, and we can recognize easy just in Weber's tasks. What I like very much, one of the book, one of the newest book from MIT, Computational Thinking. This is not a big book, but it is, I can show you just, okay, just here in my hands always. And Matti Tedre is a researcher from Finland. We worked, and now we are working on some projects together, and Peter Denning is from USA. And they wrote several papers. There is paper you can see in Colli conference they published. And also I would like to recommend, this is free of charge in our journal, Informatics in Education, open access. You can just download it to read, and you see this is on the top that it is published this year, very new paper. I was very happy that Denning and Tedre sent to our journal, and and we reviewed, of course, and now it is published Computational Thinking, a Disciplinary Perspective, that it's very, very fresh, very new paper. You see how it looks in our informatics in education in our journal. And also you can find Professor Hromkovich and my paper also published just now on informatics or computer science curricula. So that is connection of computational thinking to curricula. I don't know how you call in Indonesia informatics, computer science, or computing curricula, but you can understand that I'm mentioned the same. What we have in schools, it doesn't matter how we call. Computational thinking in curricula also is problematic. At least I know much better in Europe. I do not know in Asian countries well. I know a little about Singapore and probably South Korea. And I need to talk more to Inggriani about curricula in your country and what is place. But as you see that it's in this author Su suggested that computational thinking can be incorporated in schools in 4 ways: creating a new subject, incorporating CT skills into existing courses such as mathematics or other, embedding CT across the entire curriculum as transversal skill, and some combinations of the above. First one, creating a new subject, it's almost not possible, at least in European countries, because we have quite strict framework and it will be a lot of problems. So that is countries in Europe, they incorporating CT skills into existing courses. There are many papers about this written, and for example, now I'm helping Finland to incorporate computational thinking in mathematics. In Sweden, for example, they have chosen incorporate computational thinking in 4 subjects like mathematics, sciences, technology, and arts. In countries who have computer science curricula, that is more easy, like for example, like Lithuania or Poland, we incorporating computational thinking in computer science or informatics curricula. But the problem is that not all countries have computer science. It means that at first need to establish informatics or computer science curricula and then to think about computational thinking. So I'm looking more from papers, as you see, and I already mentioned that Professor Juraj Hromkovich from Switzerland and wrote about several papers about computational thinking, especially concerning curriculum, and you can find also the last paper published with me in Informatics in Education journal. Integration with some other subjects. I already mentioned that in Finland, for example, they incorporated with mathematics. They started already a few years ago, but still is an undergoing process because we need to teach teachers and so on. And here is paper Pia Niemela published. She published several papers, but here is some of my citation from her paper published in 2017. So also we can think about like CT as transversal skill, and here is some papers, for example, Katja Balanskat, who is a very important person in this European Commission in promoting computational thinking and informatics education. And she wrote that implementing CT transversally across subjects can be an attractive option in some countries, at least in Europe, that they choose in this way. What about CT pedagogies? Also, there are many papers on computational thinking pedagogies. Here I put several also citations from several papers. For example, like Australian Computing Academy. You can read this paper also on the website, and there's many interesting ideas. Kung Lee published about a paper that a good design for teaching CT includes several important aspects, and he mentioned here and about also learning center methods, about promotion of deep learning, and to avoid some like, for example, teaching only coding. From Israel, Hassan, with courses, he suggested 4 theories about pedagogical principles that we can use in order to teach computational thinking. And there is constructivism. Maybe you know about this constructivism, also social constructivism, some type of constructivism, constructionism that we use from Papert, from Seymour Papert, and there is conference on constructionism going every 3 years. I have 3 years probably. I did in 2018 in Lithuania also, and so you can Google also to see about this conference. And context-based learning, that it's incorporate computational thinking pedagogy in different subjects. Now in papers started to talk about progression of CT concepts, and this is really important topic, but not so many research papers are still done. That is connection to cognitive load and different ages, and you see that the same author Xu with co-authors, he wrote several papers, and for Lizzie mentioned learning stages, as learning stages for primary, lower secondary, upper secondary school. So concerning progression, we can I like this from Zhang and with courses from last year, publication about CT skills progression for grades 1 and 9. It means from ages like 6 to 16. And here's some CT skills, some and in which age they are important to promote. One more topic I wanted just very short to mention, because I do not have more time, and that gender and equity, what is really popular in Europe now, in many papers talking about gender relation to when we are teaching computers. And there is some interesting discoveries, for example, like Israel Fisherson wrote that girls were significantly more creative than boys in terms of both creative thinking and computational creativity. So this is some findings. The very important topic is assessment. There are many papers on assessment concerning computational thinking, but it is still not very constructive. I think that we're still searching how to assess in the best way. And this is, I'm talking about research papers. 2 approaches of assessment we can select. There is assessing through programming and assessing through problem solving. These 2 ways what I found in literature on computational thinking. And there are some papers mentioning. One of important paper is from Tikva and Tamboris, published just in 2021, very fresh paper, and they suggested CT assessment methods is focusing on 5 methods like self-report methods, test, artifact analysis, observation, and frameworks. So this is, I organized in table what I like more, that to organize in table what I found about assessment methods. And here is, you see some papers mentioned, a lot of these papers, and it's really a lot of reading. What I like most very much is Roman Gonzalez with co-authors. He wrote many papers on assessment, and some ideas are really very good, very interesting. Armoni from Israel, Michal Armoni, she wrote also several papers on assessment and with some, especially for observations, you see, and from other mixed methods as well. So assessment is really still problematic, but it's, for example, this Roman Gonzalez suggested Dr. Scratch. It means how to assess computational thinking using Scratch program. There are some other suggestions, and the same Roman Gonzalez with courses suggested some assessment tools, and here I put some tools from his paper, also from other papers like Weintraub, Wilensky, both from USA authors. And what is interesting, that Roman Gonzalez suggested this CT test called CTT, and this is based actually on Bebras tasks. So that it means that Bebras now started to have some role in assessment. I'm not very happy because we are not we promoting Bebras as a motivation tool, but not as assessment. But if researchers found something, it means we should, as Bebras community, we should put more attention and look also to provide probably some special tasks for assessment. And again, I would recommend you to look at Australia Computing Academy paper. Here is also some thoughts. And from this German author's paper is written about the Bebras competition refers to the analytic and apply levels of the taxonomy, analytic thinking. So this is what I took quotation from the paper. Relation with programming and coding, I think I have not too much time left here. 10 minutes or more?
14 minutes.
14 minutes, okay. So that I'm sorry that I'm going too fast, but just I wanted to mention you, and if you are interested in some topics, you can dig in my slides better. So relation programming also is problematic. That programming is not equal computational thinking, and maybe the best is this diagram showing that computational thinking, computer science, coding, they are overlapping but not totally overlapping. Each has some other topics as well. And the relation with programming and coding, there is model presented by Tikva and Tamboris, and can investigate in these models that it's really interesting. And there is some papers on computational concepts, practices, and perspectives, as already mentioned, but here is connection with programming, because programming is really has like dominating subject in computational thinking, and that's why there are plenty of papers talking about how to teach programming across computational thinking. And also tools and technologies that I think for you it is interesting, especially who are practice teachers, that which tools, for example, here I made this list, but also there is papers, research papers, because not only list of tools, but just who wrote and investigating this tools and connection robotics, microcontrollers as well. A few words about teacher education. There are not so many papers on teacher connection to computational thinking, but this topic is, I think, it's very important, and the crucial role of teachers in fostering students' computational thinking in compulsory education is very well acknowledged in research literature. So that is how to teach future teachers or initial teachers, and some papers also focused on professional development because we need to teach teachers all time. And here's a quite good book and paper also from authors from Singapore, I think, Kong, Lei, and Son. They wrote about teacher education, teacher training. Now, now my last part of slides, because here was I did some overview of probably more than 1,000 papers, but I haven't mentioned all, but that's the most important papers. But now I wanted to say a few words about how to write a research paper and what is research paper. That it's what is that when we look at research paper, when we browse for research paper, that what is very important for us. For us, it's very important. It's title, abstract, results, and full paper. And for those who already quite good in research community, also authors quite important, because I always looking what for example, like Professor Romkovich or Professor Roman Gonzalez or Tedre or Denning or also famous authors or Professor Kong or some are writing or publishing in this area. When you already know that it's also about when we are talking about papers, sometimes we are talking about IMRAD format. What does it mean? That it means that research paper always have very strict parts. That is introduction, materials and methods, this M, results, and discussion. Discussion part or the or conclusions or some. These parts are very, very important. Just as we can see about structure. I like with this comparison with fish, that we in the research paper we always have title, abstract, keywords, and of course authors or co-authors or many authors. And then we have this body, what is the best fish meat that we are always looking. That is introduction, methods, results, discussion. This is main body. And at the end, we have conclusions, we can have acknowledge, we can have some annexes, supplementary like data and references. References is very important. It's really important because we always research papers are based on some other researchers. It's not like only some thoughts. So this is more in details. And so what is a good paper, research paper should do? It's contain a few words as possible and very easy understand. And there is some style how need to written. And about authors, I already mentioned keywords. Keywords are very important. Maybe you know that sometimes when you're looking to long papers, especially, then keywords help, and keywords help us to browse for when we are searching papers. Abstract. Usually we read abstract, and I showed you, for example, like Tedre and Denning, only abstract. And if with good abstract, you can promote paper much better. And that is why when we write papers, we should put very big attention on abstracts. Introduction part also is important, should be not repeated the same ideas and in abstract, because abstract is more condensing about everything, and introduction is more like background, providing background on why the problem you address is important, and what is lacking in the current knowledge, and also objectives of our study in research question. And so this is more like all about research papers, that we start with some literature and practices, and it's research questions. It's very important to say explicitly. In some papers that is more hidden, but now more and more research papers just explicitly write 1, 2, 3 research papers, and then methods, how we investigate, and at the end is results, interpretations, and sometimes repeat some research questions. And so here is also about methods. It's talking about quantitative data and qualitative data, some experiments, interviews we can find in these in research papers. results, some overview of how we answer research questions, and conclusions. This is like short, some how we answered our research questions. And what is important is references. References should be well cited, and there are several international recognized styles. We can look, and usually we use this APA style that you see that actually differences is where you put years, or how you sometimes how you, for example, ML site you use quotes, and the APA styles don't use. There is some other style, but mainly use this APA style. And at the end, I wanted just to present informatics in education, and I already mentioned that I'm editor for many years, established in 2002. It means already we can celebrate 20 years anniversary, and this journal now it is quite well recognized. Also, I should mention another, my journal established Olympiads in informatics, and I can encourage you to write in Olympiads in informatics. And I'm thanking Inggriani that she this is one of the reviewer of papers in this journal. Maybe it is interesting statistical data that for informatics in education journal, for example, like in last year, 2020, we got 172 papers and published. You see, we published 30 papers, and because we do not, we are each journal lack of reviewers, because reviewers is very important for journals. That's why we give to reviewers when we really are convincing. Actually, me and Gabriele, we're looking to papers, and they should be in scope with our scope of our journal. And if they are not, or some do not have these parts, then we just before reject before peer reviewing. And so our journal Informatics in Education, that is on a Web of Science Imagine list. We are looking now to be on a core collection, but it depends also on citation. That's why it's important. We see that important to cite papers published in our journal. And when we reviewing, what we looking actually mainly before giving to reviewers, we look at 3 items: the scope of journal, because if they are only focusing on technology, our journal is informatics in education or computer science in education, it means that we are just refuse to publish. Or we also checking plagiarism. Plagiarism can be just own papers, if it's like already published paper, that it's of course you can use your own papers some part, but not like 80%. And also on paper structure, if it's, I already mentioned about this quite strict paper structure, if there are some parts missing, like for example conclusions, so we just reject papers. And here I wanted just to some about computational thinking, that it's interesting to see what research papers are on computational thinking. And also I haven't mentioned, but there's unplugged approaches also. It's very now common to make research in computational thinking. And I would like, from unplugged activities also, I would like to mention about Bebras methodology that now is going in many countries in all our world, that our methodology is focusing on small things, doing, solving, enjoying, especially enjoying. And I think that in Indonesia also students, teachers enjoy doing Bebras tasks and creating deeper digital learning culture. And we have many research papers published in about Bebras on computational thinking, and in bebras.org on publication section you can find more than 100 papers published. and you can download the thesis. This paper is published just in this year already, and I'm very happy that you see that different authors are writing about Bebra. This is from, I guess it's from South Korea, from Greece, from other that authors that from all our worlds they mention Bebra's challenge. Thank you very much, and if you have questions, or probably later after Inggriani, or if short questions, if we have time.
Thank you so much, Professor Valentina, for your insightful presentation. Now we have Dr. Inggriani Liem. Bu Inge, are you ready?
Okay. Thank you, Valentina. You have you make a very general and comprehensive information for us. And you know, I just only want to put our audience to our context in Indonesia. Okay.
Yes. And, okay. No problem.
Sorry that I put some of my slides in Bahasa Indonesia, but I try to explain in English. Okay.
No problem. Just use it because it's main audience are you, and it is important. It's not me.
Okay, I cannot share my screen, my dear moderator.
Pak Arif.
Sir Bangun, can you help Ibu Inggriani?
Can you authorize me? Can you authorize me to share my screen? Okay, now I can. Okay, I just put some slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, Bu.
Yes.
Valentina, I hope you understand the problem, because you know, even me, I'm not a good writer, I'm not a good researcher, and I'm so thankful that you one day we go to Dell, and then you encourage me to publish something, and by that publication I can achieve one more scale in my career as government officer. So
we should write on Bebras together research paper. Just promise me next year.
Okay, I will. But you know, the main problem in Indonesia is our publication rate is low. Research is not a culture, not yet, I say, and university is more a teaching university than research university. And you know, our PISA result is so low. That's why our student, some of our students, most I think, cannot achieve the level of high order thinking as we hope. Okay, but in fact, in our university, we have a duty to do three things that we call three dharma. The first thing, we have to deliver our education, that we absorb some body of knowledge. Then we do pengabdian masyarakat, is deployment to society, where we deploy our knowledge to society, and then we have to do research. In fact, each university must do the three things that is unseparated one of another. If we didn't do the three of them, I think we will stagnant, because we never put something new in our body of knowledge. So we teach old things and always the same things. Let me explain in bahasa Indonesia, teman-teman. Jadi kalau tidak tridharma, maka kita itu akan mengajarkan yang itu-itu saja. Karena pendidikan ini mengajarkan body of knowledge ini apa? Satu set pengetahuan dan keilmuan yang dikenal oleh masyarakat yang berbudaya. Apa itu berbudaya? Masyarakat ilmiah yang sudah berbudaya, sudah mengenal. Nah, ini menjadi penting karena bagi yang belum tahu, dianggapnya riset ini sesuatu yang baru. Padahal di masyarakat yang berbudaya, dia itu sudah tahu. Riset itu harus didahului dengan belajar. Jadi dalam pendidikan, orang belajar sesuatu yang sudah diketahui dan penelitian ini menambahkan. Pengabdian masyarakat ini nanti akan menimbulkan riset karena kalau ilmu itu dipakai akan menimbulkan kebutuhan-kebutuhan baru. Demikian juga dengan pendidikan, kalau kita mengajar, kesulitan mengajar, kemudian materinya apa, itu juga bisa menjadi penelitian. That's what I want to say, that research can be fundamental research or applied research. And one of the important aspects of applied research is in education. If the body of knowledge is informatics, then we do a research on informatics education. So our challenge is, given the theme, I say theme, computational thinking, what kind of tridharma could I do? I'm sure that in deployment to society, we have done how we introduce computational thinking to teachers and also the teachers and to students. And in education, because computational thinking is new, then we have to introduce computational things first. And then what should we do with research? Computational thinking is very important in Indonesian K-12 curriculum because it is a foundation of all informatics subjects. And also we have what we call praktik lintas bidang is computing practices, and we introduce ICT as on the top. Why we still introduce ICT? Because in some area, students do not have enough equipment. That's why if we don't have technology, we can still learn by unplugged learning as introduced by Valentina. Everybody know that our our minister, since his first month of when he became a minister, he decided that computational thinking is very important. But Valentina, he put computational thinking in the envelope of Profil Pelajar Pancasila. This is national adaptation of 4 or 5C in 21st century learning. So every subject should contribute to our Profil Pelajar Pancasila. And computational, because computational thinking is new literacy, it's like reading, writing, arithmetic, calistung, then we introduce computational thinking since early age. Thank you, Valentina, that you bring Bebras to Indonesia by us. And now we are 87 universities who are working to introduce city by Bebras, at least for elementary school, because in elementary school, they don't have informatics. So our effort is to introduce computational thinking to teachers so that they can infuse computational thinking to whatever subject they deliver. And now, from our curriculum, I want to remind students here and my colleague that we have to distinguish between research and publication. I think for Valentina and colleague in Europe, publishing paper is easy, quote between quotes, because you swim in a research environment. That is not our culture. So I will remind that research is broader than publication. Publication is part of research result. So you cannot publish a paper if you don't do any research. A research should be done according to a roadmap. So each department, like Department of Informatics at every university, should have a roadmap of research. And then when we publish, it should be aligned to the roadmap. It should be focused. Then research can be done individually, but rather strange, or in a team. And in one team, you can involve students. More higher level education, students are more involved in research. And remember that tugas akhir for S1, thesis for S2, dissertation of S3 is penelitian mahasiswa. In fact, it is a student's research where lecturer act as supervisor. So it is important to understand this, that tugas akhir itu adalah penelitian mahasiswa. Sehingga mahasiswa juga harus publikasi, bukan hanya tugas akhir, tetapi juga sebuah jurnal atau paper, ya. Now research about computational thinking. Valentina presented so many and deeply about this. Silakan googling. Tadi sudah banyak sekali, and we can position our position in computational thinking research can be informatics researcher or education researcher. Valentina, among 87 universities who are involved in BEBRAS, part of them are informatics are coming from informatics department, and part of them are coming from educational university. So how can I explain? In Indonesia, there are schools for teachers. So some of them come from teacher school and some from informatics. I hope there will be a good collaboration between universities who are working for informatics and for lecturers who are working from education, because in Indonesia there is still gap between informatics and education. The education is not so how can I say, the education are more conventional. However, because of COVID, they use now ICT. But you can imagine that education in Indonesia is done conventionally. They are not ICT literate. They are not digital literate. And suddenly now come computational thinking. This is a problem in our country. And if you want to publish, Valentina mentioned so many journals, and I highlight one of them where she is the editor-in-chief. Okay? And please be careful of research ethics. You should have a concern about data privacy. You have take care of plagiarism. You have to take care about self-citation and circular citation. This is my message for Indonesian lecturers and students. And this one, I want to give a very fundamental background for students, because most of the student here is coming from undergraduate student, Valentina. Because the slide is in English, please, I will explain in bahasa Indonesia now. Jadi, terutama untuk mahasiswa, karena kalau untuk dosen ini sudah tahu lah ya. Apa yang disebut dengan research? Research itu sebetulnya untuk menjawab pertanyaan. Memulai research itu harus selalu mulai dengan research question. What kind of question you want to address? Atau untuk memecahkan persoalan. Nah, tentunya keduanya ini nanti akan tergantung kepada disiplin ilmu yang akan diteliti. Penelitian itu sangat membutuhkan reasoning yang tinggi. Karena penelitian itu bukan hanya motret. Anda itu nanti akan motret fakta, tak, tapi penelitian atau meneliti dari potret itu, entah data eksperimen, entah apa, sebetulnya pertanyaan apa yang Anda jawab, dan persoalan apa yang ingin Anda pecahkan. Nah, ada lagi tentang di dalam penelitian tentang pendidikan. Ini yang di perguruan tinggi kita suka sulit karena FKIP dengan keilmuan itu sangat dipisahkan. Banyak sekali dosen yang mengajar tanpa latar belakang pedagogi. Untungnya pemerintah sudah mencoba dengan memberikan katakanlah akta 4, pembekalan mengenai pedagogi. Nah, pertanyaannya, materi dulu ditambah pedagogi bisa mengajar, atau sekolah pedagogi materi belakangan? Ini yang merupakan pertanyaan telur dan ayam dan telur, karena di FKIP mereka mulai pedagogi, misalnya sekarang tentang pendidikan informatika. Kalau di FKIP dia fokus ke pedagoginya, akibatnya karena SKS-nya sama, informatikanya lemah. Yang di informatika tidak menjadi guru, lebih banyak menjadi product developer. Nah, inilah persoalan yang harus kita putuskan. I say, Valentina, that in our country, for example, in informatics, we aim to deliver software developer or IT product developer. Our main objective is not for delivering teacher. In teacher schools, in the contrary, they focus on pedagogy. So by having the same load and the same hour in teacher school, they have very minimum of informatics, physics, and math. But in math, physics, they study more the subject than the pedagogy. So by doing a good research, we can fill up the gap. Dan kemudian ini ada sedikit gambaran nanti pilihan ya. Saya akan mungkin hanya sebentar, nanti kalau mau kita lebih dalam, bahwa riset itu bisa kualitatif, kuantitatif, atau campuran. Bisa scientific research, engineering research, atau design research. Kedua ini bisa digabungkan. Jadi lihat kalau kuantitatif itu lebih berdasarkan data, Anda bereksperimen, mengobservasi, bermain dengan angka, mungkin nanti yang penelitian tentang data mining dan sebagainya akan ke sini. Dan kualitatif. Kalau kualitatif ini lebih dengan kata-kata. Jadi Anda nanti akan mengeksplor dengan pertanyaan, mengobservasi, mewawancara orang, sehingga kalau nanti skripsi entah mau kuantitatif atau kualitatif. Lihat perbedaannya, saya tidak akan membacakan. Kalian bisa membaca sendiri lebih lengkap. Dan caranya. Jadi riset itu ada subjeknya, ada caranya. Kalau kuantitatif lebih dengan survei, eksperimen, observation. Kalau kualitatif Anda melakukan interview, fokus group discussion, mengundang pakar, etnografi, dan literatur review yang tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Valentina. Nah, kapan Anda harus menggunakan kualitatif atau kuantitatif? Anda menggunakan kuantitatif jika Anda ingin mengkonfirmasi atau mentes sesuatu. Kualitatif kalau Anda ingin mengerti sesuatu. Dari sini bidang engineering akan susah. Engineering itu ada di mana? Jadi ini lebih banyak untuk pedagogi, ilmu sosial. Mereka memilih di antara kualitatif dan kuantitatif. Tetapi kalau kita engineering, itu biasanya lebih mau memilih jalur saintifik atau engineering. Engineering itu apa? Artinya adalah nanti dekat hubungannya dengan design research, karena di dalam engineering kita ingin solve the problem tadi itu. Kan tadi dikatakan riset itu menjawab pertanyaan, membuktikan kenapa kok benda kalau jatuh dari atas selalu ke bawah. Itu pertanyaan Newton ketika dia melamun di bawah pohon apel, kenapa apel itu tidak pernah jatuh ke atas? Maka lahirlah teori gravitasi. Nah, engineering ini agak lain karena menyadari adanya gejala alam. Benda itu jatuh dari langit, tidak pernah naik, tapi ada burung yang tidak pernah jatuh. Maka insinyur akan berpikir bagaimana membuat pesawat terbang. Jadi lihat, inilah perbedaan antara riset di bidang sains atau riset di bidang engineering. Di bidang engineering, kita lebih menjalankan engineering proses, menghasilkan produk. Jadi hasilnya bukan pembuktian, tetapi produk. Nah, ini nanti di informatik itu menjadi rancu. Karena apa? Karena informatik itu bisa sainsnya, bisa engineering-nya. Jadi nanti mau kemana, ini ada perbandingannya. Saya pikir yang satu itu untuk menjawab pertanyaan, yang satu adalah untuk dimanfaatkan ke sesuatu, dan design research itu mirip, tapi belum tentu bidangnya engineering. Nanti yang information system, itu kalau mendesain sistem informasi, itu akan melakukan design research. Tetapi saya juga ingin pesan, membangun aplikasi, itu bukan bisa riset, bisa bukan riset. Saya selalu pakai contoh yang gampang begini. Anda membuat kue nastar saat Lebaran. Ini selalu saya berikan ke mahasiswa saya. Kalau Anda sekedar buat kue terus ditulis ini resepnya, ini buatannya, itu bukan riset. Kalau Anda ingin menyelidiki tepung apa di pasaran yang paling bagus untuk resep nastarku, maka saya membuat nastar itu bukan tujuan bikin kue, tetapi ingin mengutak-atik cari tepung yang cocok. Jadi ini pesan untuk mahasiswa bahwa sesuatu yang kita kerjakan itu bisa sekedar mengerjakan atau menjadi research. Ini penutup dari saya. So this is the end of my conclusion. I encourage the students to realize, to reflect of what they do. It's just doing or a research. Because when you do a research, it is a reflective thinking, it is a high order thinking, and not just doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Valentina. Thank you, moderators. So I end my talk. Just to complement your paper, Valentina. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Inge, for your presentation, loud and clear. Now we enter the discussion session. I see in the chat room, we have one question from Lucas, but I think Bu Inge already answered it. City is not AI, but it can be a foundation for studying AI, yeah, Bu Inge, if I'm right.
Yeah, Valentina, city is not AI, right? Please explain.
Yes.
I think there is only one question in the chat message. If Bapak Ibu or adik-adik want to ask question directly. Okay, Lucas.
Saya buka mic ya, Bu.
Ya, pakai bahasa Inggris.
Agak susah, Bu, maaf, nggak lancar ngomongnya. Mungkin dikit-dikit kali ya. Pertanyaannya kan tadi dari papernya Profesor Valentina, bahwa kebanyakan di negara Eropa sudah menerapkan computational thinking dari tingkat sekolah. Bahkan mungkin dari sekolah dasar mungkin ya kan grade 1 sampai grade 9. Sedangkan di Indonesia sekolah itu masih istilahnya tidak menerapkan computational thinking serta opsi pembelajarannya terlalu banyak. Bahkan ilmu-ilmu yang sebenarnya kita tidak perlu belajar pun dipaksa untuk belajar gitu loh. Dan sedangkan di sini kan topiknya adalah membuat research tentang computational thinking atau istilahnya kita membuat research tentang apapun gitu loh. Membuat research itu kan perlu istilahnya passion, di mana tanpa passion kita pasti nggak akan niat untuk membuat sebuah research gitu loh. Nah pertanyaannya, bagi kita yang belum pernah sama sekali atau dari kecil tidak ditanamkan tentang computational thinking, kita harus mencari passion kita di sini itu bagaimana caranya gitu loh.
Thank you, Lucas. Pertanyaannya ke Prof. Valentina apa ke Bu Inge? Mungkin bisa saling menimpali ya.
Iya.
Thank you. So, Professor Valentina, in general, Lucas asking, because in Indonesia we only introduce city in recent years. What should, how come someone that haven't been now city can pursue passion in city for doing research in city?
If I understand correctly, you're asking that you have too short time to introducing CT and how you can make research, yeah? But you can also, you can make, contribute probably, for example, like asking teachers how they understand, what they would like, what their background. There is possibilities just I'm looking for international committee. What is interesting? Interesting is also to make research at the beginning, how you start to introduce and what teachers, for example, are thinking, what teachers need, What, of course, you should connect to other, because if you started, for example, like you would like to focus on teachers, what we are doing in Lithuania, actually, we're introducing computational thinking at primary school. Primary school teachers do not have any computer science background. It means they are from like zero. And then we are looking what they need, how then accept. We for example, we introduce them to some Bebras tasks for connection to computational thinking, and then investigate which concept they understand, what is better, what is, of course, it is not easy to, but still at the primary this level, you can do some questionnaires, and especially if you can reach, you can focus on bigger amount than with statistical data, than like online answering questionnaire. If you can reach like several hundred of teachers, their opinion is very important then. But you can focus on less if you do like qualitative, for example, like more deeper, then you can interview teachers, ask them this opportunity also. It is possible. But another topics you can, if it's like more internationally, what I'm doing, for example, it's not necessary to connect. Of course, Indonesia is a big country, and your experience would be really, really interesting. But like Lithuania is so small country with 2.5 million inhabitants, usually I'm doing more international, combining with several countries. Now we are working together with like Finland or Switzerland. We are doing on some research questions what we would like to see. But I really encourage to do on Indonesian level. And it doesn't matter that you just started. Starting point is also very, very interesting for other countries, and to get experience how to start. Maybe Inggriani, you can add more.
Okay, Valentina, because I don't know who asked the question, it is student or teachers, lecturers, because when you do such kind of what Valentina is saying is very, very good. But I think if you want to make a research about city, first you have to learn about city and experiencing, not just learning. Then you can make a research on that subject, whatever subject. And the second, what you said, that in Indonesia we have not introduced city is not true, because with Gerakan Pandai we have trained more than 30,000 teachers, and now teachers are knowing about city. And if you say that in Indonesia is too many subjects, now government shift the paradigm of teaching to learning. So we change everything. Even for informatics, be careful, my students who are here, because the first and second years of informatics, like fundamental programming, fundamental hardware and software and network, now the subjects are taught in SMP, middle school, and high school. So we shift the paradigm, and also we shift the subject to K-12. So in 3 or 4 years ahead, I think students in informatics department learn more deeply. They still learn programming, but programming as professional developer, not as programming as tools for communicating with computer, as writing a solution. This is the difference. So, and unfortunately, Valentina, if a lecturer in informatics are doing research or paper just for teaching, sometimes in our system they reject as paper for our career. But if it is for educational university, then it is good. So this is the dilemma that we have to solve, not thinking in the box It is informatics. It is education. And I think our government tried to, what's that? Membuka sekat-sekat. Now they try to open every boxes. And what you said to Pak Lucas is visible now. Thank you. Semoga yang bahasa Indonesia mengerti ya.
Thank you, Bu Inga and Prof. Valentina. We have second question, which is we can implement CT in most subject or all subject beside informatics?
Please repeat. I couldn't really get.
Can we implement CT in all subject beside informatics?
Yes, it is very good question, and I already mentioned about research papers that there is this huge trend from one side implementing CT in computer science or informatics curricula. It is more clear, and for me it is clear. But there are some other research papers and going process that implementing CT in other subjects. And you can imagine, like, for example, if we take Sweden, usually does not have computer science education in schools. In some schools, but not compulsory. It means for them to establish, if wanted to establish computer science, they should establish a separate subject, computer science or informatics. That's why the government decided to establish computer science in other subjects. Similar in Finland. In some schools, they have informatics education, but mainly they do not have. And it means that they establishing computer science, like more programming, focusing from grades now 1 to 9 in mathematics. And so we will see then the results, and we will see some research, because I'm involved in this project. But this is, you see, it is up to countries what they. In my personal opinion, I think if countries have informatics or computer science discipline subject in school, that is the easiest way to combine with computational thinking. That's why Pedre and Denning in this book, Computational Thinking, they wrote that at least in Europe, they know that this is waves that countries started to establish compulsory informatics education in schools. That is now huge in almost many countries like Croatia, Slovenia, some other countries. They open this because it is to establish computational thinking as subject. I haven't such experience, and I don't know if, but because it is like more like a methodology and approach. So it means that countries can establish computer science subject and inside look more for computational thinking. Do I answer it?
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Valentina. Bu Inge, do you want to add some answer?
No, it is very clear what Valentina said.
Actually, you already answered it by the picture, your virtual background, Bu Inge, gerakan pandai. Because
yeah.
It implements CT in all subject in school. Thank you so much. We go to the next question from Bu Ayu. I think Bu Ayu from Dianuswantoro. How to connect computational thinking and computer science research?
That's for Valentina.
Yes, just I'm thinking, because it is similar. How to combine computational thinking and computer science research, yeah? Yeah, maybe if we are talking about computer science in broad sense, not in education, then it's different. But I'm talking always about computer science education, and we have in international community, we call this CER, computing education research. And this is bigger group of, I really would like to have more involved Indonesian people in this how to say, community or movement. And now we this community, more than 20 authors, now we suggested to write a book for Springer, maybe next year, on computing education research, because it is already more than 50 years process. And each country has this, like in Europe, sometimes we call informatics didactics, especially in Germany, almost in each university has a special, not big one, usually group is like 2-3 professors or with 2-3 doctoral students focusing on informatics didactics or computer science. It means that combination of two fields, what Inggriani suggested, that computer science together with education. It's now it is and other subjects has like physics, mathematics, quite strong mathematics plus education. And it doesn't matter in which department. Sometimes it's accommodated in computer science department with education, and sometimes in the education department with other subjects. So it's up to country, up to university. But computer science education research, it's really separate field. And with these famous professors, like I already mentioned, from like Mati Tedre, like Maciej Sislo in Poland, and in USA there are special conference focusing 6C. I mentioned this is special interest group on computer science education. And there are in Israel, there are very famous people who are working in this area, like Michal Armoni and Noyer Agonis and others. So we can find in each country in this field working. That's why I wanted to talk about this computer science education plus computational thinking. And this is like computer science education is field that you can do research, and many journals I mentioned you would like the top journal Computers and Education or Human Behavior Education, or some just our journal Informatics in Education, also with one of and with very high ranking in Scopus, for example. And but if we talked in computer science, then it's a very broad topic, and it's I'm not interested in this, but I'm interested, for example, now it is top, it's artificial intelligence. I'm reading now books, plenty of books, and I'm trying to look at this part from artificial intelligence to bring to education. We are now talking, I have a project with Germany and Austria that we are looking how to teach teachers that they can teach artificial intelligence to, for example, primary school pupils. It is challenging because like we don't know how to bring these very complex ideas, or machine learning, that's part, or big data. How to teach? It's really normal research field. What is different between like if we do research in like medicine, discussing about how to find some virus or some. What is difference if we are talking about doing research about how to teach the best in the best way the students can get knowledge, skills, and we as educators we can reach the best. We can give the best education in our countries. So the same, I think the same research, because researchers are looking for some challenging questions and suggest how we can do in the best way. Have I answered it or just add, Inggriani?
Yeah, it is. It's good. You answer the question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Valentina and Bu Inge. And next question, I think it's beside the city. Mas Agung. I think it's he asked about job market in Europe for a fresh graduate in informatics.
About job market in
for fresh graduate.
Fresh graduates.
Yeah.
Oh,
in Europe.
In Europe is we are very shortage of IT specialists. So I don't remember now exact numbers, but it is huge numbers. Maybe we are thousands of people that needs, but it is IT specialists is very broad sense, you know, from testing to programmers to very different kind. And of course we need, what I'm interested, educators. For example, in Lithuania, we are struggling with all kind of teachers, especially for informatics teachers, mathematics teachers, all kind, especially these science teachers. Because for social subjects, we have better situation, but we're really struggling. It's not enough teachers. And the same, I talked that with some other countries that teachers are or not enough teachers, or teachers are already like pension or age, that they will be retiring in 5 years or 3-5 years, and then it's not enough young teachers.
Thank you, Prof. Valentina. I hope it answered question from Mas Agung. Bapak, Ibu, and adik-adik, if you want to read more about Bu Inge's presentation, she already shared the presentation in chat message.
The problem in Indonesia is rather different, Valentina. We have many IT graduates, but they cannot have a job.
For us it's different. We have not enough graduates who would like to work.
Yeah, because some of them has not proper qualification. Yeah. And now we need, on the other hand, we need many teachers in informatics, because by introducing informatics to school, they need teachers. But I don't know if they cannot work. If they cannot work in the industry, then they cannot be a good teachers.
How to say? No, it is half. I'm not because for teachers you need slightly different skills. Of course, you need to have some background, but you don't need to have very deep background. For example, like programming in several languages, understanding how to build systems, all these. But you need to have good in pedagogy, which methods you apply. You need to be good from psychology viewpoints to understand, especially for youngest children, how they learn, how you need to motivate. There are different, I would say, just like half professional and half different skills. So, and concerning, like, for example, like Lithuania, also other countries, we are looking, now it is officially in the TV, we are looking just to bring people from other countries, because it's really now, for example, like in Lithuania, we are, of course, not only IT sector, but we are looking for like this year, 30,000 of, we have 30,000 job places that it's no people to apply for this.
Oh,
it's not only, but IT sector maybe half of this. There are other buildings like some other, but this is places and variety. It's not only, as I told, it's not like all need to be programmers, but we need like a testing, who are documentation writings in these companies, like doing webs. But this is more like people need not only narrow skills, very narrow, but you need broader skills. For example, like not only to know how to create website, but also to have some elements of design. Of course, you can learn if you wish, design, how to deal with information, like privacy, security, all these combinations. That is more hard, because if it's really very narrow, then it's probably it's a little easy, but with more broader open. And for educators, now I'm really very happy. This first time, probably after 10 years, this year I got 11 and I have 11 students who wanted to be informatics teachers. That is usually we have very little, and now these young people, it's very promising that they wanted to be teachers, and they have quite good. Actually, they already came that they got informatics degree and they wanted to be teachers. That is something very good. That is in Lithuania we have different models how you can become teachers, how you can become teacher. But to be teacher, you need. We need some extra knowledge in education.
Because in informatics school we don't put pedagogy as one of subject matters.
Yeah,
so,
the same. Yes.
Yeah, as you said. So we have to, maybe we can make a research about that.
Yes. Actually, there is TPAC model. It is this very famous model how to combine this, that each subject needs this pedagogical content knowledge.
Yeah.
That pedagogical content and this.
Yep. Thank you, Valentina, for enlightening us about that.
I will resume for Mas Agung again about the job market for undergraduate in Europe. Maybe I will present in Indonesia, Mas Agung. Jadi mungkin job market di sana kesempatannya sangat luas seperti tadi. Jumlah penduduk hanya 2,5 juta. Kemudian tidak cukup untuk orang melakukan semuanya gitu. Jadi job marketnya sangat luas, tapi yang diperlukan adalah orang-orang yang benar-benar berkompeten. Nah, kemudian kompetensi yang harus dikuasai itu sekarang kita harus lebar penguasanya, bukan hanya satu bidang, tapi bisa melakukan apapun, bisa kolaborasi dan sebagainya. Begitu ya, kalau if Mas Agung want to apply job in Europe, that's what you must prepare. Next question, it's from Mas Lucas again. How to find or decide a good problem to start a research paper? Is the topic need to be unique or generic one to be published as good paper?
Very good question, really. There are plenty of research topics or questions. I think the most important is that you like it, and when you with enthusiasm you go in this and to like to find something, to do something. And when you like the problem, then you should look around what others have done. Because you should write, and it doesn't matter. You couldn't be very unique problem, because you can with very simple problems. For example, do teachers like, for example, something teaching or so? But then you dig around and you will catch some papers, some research already done, and then you can agree or disagree. Because it's not necessary. That is why research. You can disagree with some authors, or you can provide some more extra data, or you can expand what others. I like, especially for novices, I like just take problem what others did and expand a little. For example, what others did in UK, you can add Indonesian face, and it's like calls this like case study. That is maybe easy to write, because you can follow as a structure. What I usually tell to my doctoral students, try at first with some example, and you add your case, your reasoning. And if it's really you can, especially you should do on this research paper on this, as I already told about IMRAD format, that just should provide in this format. Because now it is like a research community is quite strict. It's like receipt, like doctors need to write in this way, not what they would wish. that research paper should be in framework, that it's very already like framework. You should fit, and when you learn this, then it's okay. And it doesn't matter which question you can. All questions, I think, all questions are interesting, good. Of course, if you sometimes look on, if you already have somewhere to publish, look sometimes in special issues, special calls. For example, now this computational thinking is very on top. Or also now artificial intelligence, how to teach. I'm talking only about education teaching, how to teach. Almost very little papers how to teach artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever you can, how to teach small, for example, how to teach something like security problems for primary school children. Also, it is because it is important. Or how to use Facebook, or whatever, what you are interested, just read around, read what others done, and then write.
Thank you, Professor Valentina. Mas Lucas asking question again about the problem. I think Prof. Valentina already answered before that. First, we must choose the problem that we like, and then we must add or expand our own ideas, Mas Lucas. So it's specific one, not the generic. We must research something new. Am I right, Prof. Valentina and Bu Inge?
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, now it is more and more, maybe 80% of papers that you add data. And Inggriani mentions that data privacy, you should take also rules, keep, but it is really more paper, like in medicine, when you investigate, for example, like cases, what disease going, what was they doing with mice and so on. We are our experiments we are teaching with teachers or with children. So when we observe how is, for example, how students solve Weber's tasks, ask them additional questions, then we can make this sample. For example, I did several papers, and now I wanted to do like which tasks students like and how to dig why they like. We need somehow to extract why they like, for example, this one task and what is the value. Also very important topic is like knowledge transfer. In informatics, it's very little written papers. Do students, for example, if they see algorithm in one in like Bebras in one context, do they can recognize? Of course, from one task they couldn't. That's why we need like 10 or like in mathematics. If they see one-time multiplication, almost nobody can get a multiplication rule. They need many exercises. The same with loop or some others. But still, we are talking, do students transfer this knowledge from one context to another context? Was some investigation in physics. I read several papers, for example, about electricity. If they, if we talk electricity in some like theoretical, do they recognize how electricity work at home or in some devices or in batteries and so on? And was in some investigation in several schools that knowledge transfer is not so easy, and we should. It's almost not investigated in this area. Or progression, another topic that I mentioned. I'm interested also. I would like to this progression. It means how which topics we need to teach, and especially for primary school. For example, like a loop. What is complexity? Which loop or conditions or variables? What is more easy? What is more difficult? And how exercises should go in which way? And which exercises are more harder or more easy. We only can experiment with students, and then if we have hundreds of pupils, then we can make suggestions. So in this way, this is easier or harder, and we should teach in this way. Because in mathematics, for example, they have long traditions already. Then the traditions and then put in this way. In informatics, we do not have traditions.
And if I can add something, that before writing a paper, we have to read many papers, right? For example, for a literature review, we have to, there is a technique, of course, thousands of paper and then eliminate, and then we narrowing until we have to read seriously about 50, I think minimum. So for the students who are here, you have to read 10 papers per week on your subject, and 5 nearby your subject, and 5 out of your subject. So you can have inspiration. That's my message, not for making you afraid, but enjoy reading before writing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Valentina.
Yes, you are right. Of course, if you wanted something to tell, you should look around. It's like when you're searching something, you look around, not only in 1 centimeter place. So if you have questions, then but now it is more easy. This Google Scholar, I haven't mentioned, but everybody maybe knows it's Google Scholar, not Google only, because in Google you can get all of mess, but in Google Scholar, they focus more on research papers. So you should provide some keywords, and it's easy to stay. For example, if you're looking for computational thinking, okay, put computational thinking, then you get thousands, and then you can reduce, like see, okay, I'm interested just computational thinking and programming, or maybe just or computational thinking plus programming in Europe, or then maybe just only in Indonesia, or then I can put, if I know language, I can put language, and so on. So this is like what usually looking.
Thank you.
My suggestion is, usually when you start, it's better to look if there's some systematic papers written. It means that somebody already done some. Of course, maybe it doesn't fit for you because sometimes it's too broad or too narrow. In computational thinking, I know probably 20 quite good systematic review from different sites, and looking not all, but just like in practice on some journals, and just look at this. Some of them I mentioned, this is Tikva Timoris, or some others is, and if you look at informatics in education, there is from Turkey, I don't remember names now, that they did also systematic review of papers, and it's better, it's shorter ways that you can read and see what happened. But because computational thinking is very already known on top, that there are so plenty of systematic review papers, and some like do only on few years system, not covering all, but just few years on some on definitions and so on this. But for example, like gamification, also many systematic reviews.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will translate your answer to Indonesian maybe for the final year student. Ini jadi tadi pertanyaan Mas Lukas intinya bertanya tentang mungkin bagaimana kita bisa menemukan riset itu hubungannya dengan TA ya. Jadi kalau dari Bu Inge tadi, kalau galau mau menentukan apa untuk TA, kita sebelum nulis harus baca dulu. Tadi sarannya Bu Inge misalnya kita melakukan literatur survei itu kan sudah ada di mata kuliah Metopen, jadi ada literatur survei, contohnya misalnya kita membaca 100 jurnal, kemudian nanti ada eliminasi, kira-kira misalnya jadi 10 saja yang kita review intensif, nah kemudian 50 itu nanti dibaca misalnya seminggu 10, itu yang di review benar. Nah, jadi tidak akan bingung lagi karena kita sudah melakukan itu. Kemudian tadi dari Prof. Valentina ada lagi, cari saja jurnal, artikel jurnal tentang systematic review sudah banyak. Jadi malah itu akan lebih mempermudah kita mengetahui sebenarnya masalah yang terkini itu apa. Walaupun mungkin nggak pas banget dengan topik kita, tapi kita tahu apa yang tren di dunia. Begitu. Any more question, Bapak Ibu or adik-adik? Bu
Bu Irma is here, Valentina.
Yes, may I? May I, Ma'am?
Yes, please, Bu Irma.
Good afternoon, Professor Valentina and Ibu Inge. Nice to see you here and everyone here. I just very interested and highlight about your final message on your last slides. It's about Bebras methods. That is has a goal that is creating deeper digital learning culture. I think we need a lot of more time to discuss about it, about digital learning culture, because we just passed over this time pandemic. We try to what is doing something WFH or WFH or work from home or work from school, and now it's just in transition mode right now. And I think it's that need some what is much struggling to adapt the new culture here. And beside that, we now is still struggling to what is socialize the digital literacy digital. Some kind maybe one of the, part of digital learning culture. And I just very curious, what do you mean about that kind of digital learning culture? If you have a little time, a little more time, could you explain it to me? Thank you.
Thank you, Irma, for very good comments and the question. I really like, but it is very broad about cultural, and we can. No, I couldn't provide very structural thoughts now on this, but we all can feel about like what Bebras doing, like with all these more than 60 countries, that we are creating tasks. We enjoying with this one small task. We need to dig about informatics concepts. We think how to teach these concepts. We need to sometimes I'm joking with my students that for this half-page task I need to read 30 pages of books and to see what's have done already, or what or just repeat my algorithms in digging in Donald Knuth books and some others, just to understand if it's correct, this one word, or not correct, or something. Big debates. And also we improve by this digital culture. I think we improve our thoughts, not only in our national language, but we improve in international English, and we improving our national languages. But what I'm thinking of terminology in Lithuanian, for example, like now we are already like 3 years discussing how to translate pattern. This word is like crazy. Pattern is like we have maybe 5 words, but doesn't fit one. And it means that we are thinking, bring some cultural things. We also talk with teachers. We made this network with doctoral students, with undergraduate students, with teachers, with pupils. And this is, I think, that this is amazing example of your communities, that you have this 87 universities network. This is examples that I already mentioned in papers that published in Lithuania, that Indonesia, you can imagine. In Lithuania, of course, we couldn't probably very hard imagine because we have 13 universities at all, but still we are not cooperating, that we can learn from you, that this collaboration. And collaboration is very important in now and in future works, because, you know, almost it's not possible to do any work alone. Of course you can do, but but mainly you need with communities, and especially in democratic communities, you need to spend time to negotiate, to understand. And if you need to more faster, then it means you need to learn this, how to do faster, how to make tolerance with people, different cultures, to understand and to avoid some misunderstandings and to clarify. And this is, I mean, that a lot of this hidden hidden ideas, and that we can learn from each other when working together. And this is maybe Bebras is very small, but this is examples that we can work, enjoy of each other, clarify, work. And with this small, I saw in Austria, when Gerald invited me in teachers workshop, what Professor Gerald Fuchek from Vienna University, what he is doing a lot of seminars for teachers, and they worked on tasks very slowly, that 3 hours spending on 1-2 tasks, clarifying all details and discussing why it is, what behind. So this is also some kind that we can work on small issues and creating some like big waves around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it full of love and passion in Pobrastas. I think the time is running out, I'm afraid. Thank you so much, Professor Valentina and Bu Inge, for the insightful presentation and discussion. It surely have broadened our knowledge this afternoon. Thank you so much. I will back to you, Angel.
Thank you, Miss Swasti. Finally, we come to the end of this event. To close this event, let's recite Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Dr. Inggriani and Professor Valentina as speakers. Thank you, Miss Swasti as moderator, and thank you very much for participants for your coming and your nice attention. I represent the committee, apologize for the mistake. Before I close the event, I ask the participants to be able to turn on the camera first to take a photo.
Yay!
Here are 7 slides. We will take a photo start from slide 1.
The problem is we don't know where we are in slide 1 or
Just
2.
smile, Bu Inge, for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Zoom should improve its feature where we can sort by name or by something.
Yes.
Oh.
Second slide maybe.
Yeah.
Pak Angela. Okay.
Slide
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Valentina, thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's great. And please come to Indonesia for IOI 2022.
Of course.
In Yogyakarta. Yep. We prepare it for you and for all IOI
Irma
friends.
is in Yogyakarta, yeah?
Yeah, with Borobudur.
Yeah.
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 Well, enough. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima
Thank you
kasih
so much,
Unsur
Professor
untuk
Valentina and
menyelenggarakan.
Ibu Anggraini.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Terima
And the
kasih Pak
participant,
Dekan,
thank
para
you.
so
dosen,
much.
mahasiswa,
Terima kasih Bu
semuanya
Inggriani, terima kasih.
sama-sama.
Thank
Sorry
you,
for
Prof. Valentina.
any
Thank you so
error
much.
and imperfection.
Hai Bu Lili, ada semua, so many Bebras friends here.
Makasih Bu.
She come from Surabaya.
Halo,
One day
Prof.
you should come to our meeting, Valentina, just 5 minutes to say hello. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.